Charmin, that said, I have to mention that there is this tremendous amount of frustration being voiced in various mediums, cyberspace and elsewhere, of the lack of meaningful connection and engagement between the Guyana officials and the diaspora. I am relieved to hear what you said, that you have these bodies set up, but there's still this frustration. There are people, you talk to people one-on-one, you would hear, oh, someone doesn't return their emails, nobody, like for instance this question, there's a question in the chat room about transparency. Why wasn't that constitution recommendation to the PM made public in the interest of transparency? But before you go there, I just want to make this point, right? What role do you feel the government should play in encouraging expats to contribute to the development of Guyana? But more importantly, the engagement and the meaningful communication. How can we ensure that? How can we ensure that that is established? I mean, it's probably unfair to you guys that I'm asking this question, that we should have had one of the ministers of the government on this program here today, so we could have asked them that particular question. But give it your best shot.
So when you made a point about the people, the government, and people in terms of system. I said before, what we have is not a change of the system. The bureaucratic, difficult system to overcome is still there. What we have are new managers of the system. We have to ensure that those new managers don't become entrenched in a defunct and antiquated system that has held us back for many years. So I've always said to people in terms of our campaigning and politics that it is easy to put a new manager or managers in place. But what becomes difficult is maintaining our contact with those managers so that we hold them accountable. People in society must understand that activism is two sides of one coin. You have the political activism, which is to have those managers to be there, and then you have social activism. The people must also maintain a level of responsibility to be a part of managing that system, and part of that relates to having people be held accountable. And not accountability out of fear or just out of pure excitement to challenge, but accountability of a responsible constitutional involvement in holding our leaders to the standard bear that they've accepted those office with. And I believe that's the first thing. Many times that's what we do. We elect leaders, we identify new managers of these systems, and we go away thinking that all will be well. And I think it is affecting us to the point where many times the managers believe that they don't have to be accountable or even engage the residents or citizens.
Mm-hmm. I want to Charles, you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with Shamro, more on this. I mean, I think he's absolutely correct in stating that yes, there was a change in the management of the country, but there's still structurally there are those elements that still exist that needs to be. Let's put it this way: it needs some change in a lot of ways that would facilitate what the expectations of folks. It's not going to happen overnight. I can tell you that. It will never happen overnight. I mean, you're talking about 2 decades or more of one government, and there's a change at the top. But structurally down at the bottom, you still have those elements, those variables that's in place that you need to actually modify the behavior so that you can get the results you're expecting.
All right. So let's try something. Let me see if I can twist the dial a little bit. So we have some idea of what the status quo is and how negatively it impacts growth. But I want to shift a little bit to contribution, right? So individually, what are you doing, or do you believe you can, how do you see yourself participating if we were able to define Project Guyana, right? And as a symbol of moving Guyana forward, developing Guyana, if all things were in place, What kind of contribution do you see you were making at this point? Sharma, I will give you some time to think. I want to bring Rosh in on this. You want to answer this, Rosh?
Yeah, sure. Look, let me start by saying this. I have a dream where one day an auntie, grandma, niece, uncle in the US will call home Guyana and say, "Can you send me 200 US? Can you send me 300 or 400 or 500?" That's the vision. How are we going to get there? I'm going to tell you exactly how right now. So there's this massive opportunity that's in front of us, huge opportunity, and we're just not paying attention. So I don't know if you know about this, but there's something called the gig economy, GIG, right? These are really for the freelancers, the videographers, the graphic designers, the business card makers, the people who offer services. And there are literally billions of dollars that are being spent on an annual basis where companies, people, entrepreneurs are posting jobs for these very things on the internet, right? There are websites like Upwork.com, Guru.com, ScriptPlans.com. There are a bunch of these websites. And as of right now, most of the jobs are being diverted to Europe, specifically Eastern Europe, and Asia, South Asia. And it begs the question, why can't we do this? Why can't we teach more Guyanese how to get online, how to access this, and how to make money and bring that money into the economy? When you look at the numbers, it's absolutely mind-blowing. Now, when I explain this to people, they say, "Roach, that's a pie in the sky sort of dream. That's just not going to happen." And my immediate rebuttal is, you're wrong, because it's happening, and it's happening right now. So I lead a course every few months. I do something called the Entrepreneurship Masterclass, where I take aspiring entrepreneurs or people in Guyana who are kind of stuck and they're trying to get to the next level. And one of my students is making, I don't want to call his name and put him on blast, but he's making anywhere from 50 US to 200 US on a daily basis. Okay? On a daily basis. Because I've walked him through the process of how to find these jobs, how to bid for these jobs, how to close the contracts, and how to deliver the product. Now he's hiring people, job creation, employment, primarily youth, where he's outsourcing the job to younger Guyanese. And he's doing essentially what I did when I got started, which was to find the jobs, outsource them, and I was essentially the middleman. Now, what we're about to do is launch this as sort of a pilot for the Caribbean. We don't need to be greedy, okay? We can roll this out to the entire Caribbean, but the pilot's gonna start here. The pilot's gonna start in Guyana. So I'm about to put out a call for applications, people who want to be a part of the system, and we're going to walk them through a 6-week period, absolutely free, of how to do this. We're going to duplicate, we're going to replicate the process, we're going to wash, rinse, repeat, and we're going to share this openly with anyone who wants it.
Well, Rush, let me ask this question though. And the question is, and this is for anybody in the panel. There was a change in government. Guyana still has, as Sharm and Charles and Sonia mentioned, the same type of people running the system. There are all these various challenges. Why didn't you become disillusioned and not move forward? How were you able to think outside the confines of the Guyanese paradigm and implement what you're implementing?
If I could, Selvin, first let me say the first question that you asked. I think in terms of what are we doing before we get to how do we get people to adapt to maybe what we're doing, is to send congratulations to both Rush and Sonia, because I think it starts with that empowerment. They've both embarked on missions of empowerment, and I think that's where we need to start. Whether it's empowerment of our women, empowerment of our young people to become business-minded and business-oriented, and that sort of empowerment is what will give confidence and what will give new ideas and initiatives, because people become aware of what is happening outside of Guyana. Now, the other thing about how do you get people now to want to subscribe to that, it is the way you would teach that sort of empowerment. And I mentioned this before on your program that it requires that sort of cultural revolution. You cannot have an economic revolution, you cannot have an educational revolution if people don't understand why. As a mother, why would I?
Has to change.
Exactly. We have to ensure that people are culturally different. Ms. Noel said it earlier. There's a lot of selfishness that exists in our society at the moment. We have to let people know, and the origin of Guyana doesn't allow for us to not work together. It is the natural composition of Guyana. We are not called the Cooperative Republic of Guyana by accident. We'll call the Cooperative Republic of Guyana because at the establishment of our cultural understanding, it is what the Amerindians did. They came together, gathered, hunted, they lived together. The Indians did the same. They purchased sugar plantation, rice fields together. The African came together, bought villages and started the village movement. We are a people that work together. So if culturally we don't understand our makeup and our composition, it is difficult for those initiatives being promoted by Roche and Sonia, which is that level of empowerment, to catch on. Because people will not value the importance of understanding such initiatives and knowing that to apply them, it will require that sort of cultural understanding of working together and working to understand systems which are very integrated and work together in groups. So you have to get that sort of institutional arrangement in place where people can see more cultural discussion on issues of the family, in terms of school, in terms of organizational management. When we start to fix those things, then we can start to speak to people about their upliftment.
Shama, on that, let me get Sonia in on this, because we made a very important point in terms of empowerment, and people might not readily gravitate to that. But this is an effort or happening from the bottom up, rather than looking for the government to provide these kinds of initiatives. Now you have somebody like Roche and you have somebody like Sonia empowering others. Sonia, the question I have for you, what type of pushback, or not pushback, but what type of challenges you encounter in the inception? I know what you're doing caught on, and I can see evidence of the women buying into it and their enthusiasm and so on. But when you first started this initiative, what were your initial challenges, and why did you continue to push forward?
You know, Selwyn, I'm a dreamer, but I'm the kind of person that likes to see dreams become reality. Like Roche is a dreamer also. You know, we have to, and that's the only something, that's what keeps us going, the dream, you know? And like Mr. Solomon was saying, like when I first started this initiative here, and then let's go to the last one, the Women in Business Expo. Right away, I'm telling you, it was overwhelming with the response that we got, because you have to register online. We had more than 100 applicants. So that means it's needed. We could have only accommodated for them. What we tried to do is to have from Burbies. We had, as far as Kabukaburi, we had Linden, we had Bartica. And, you know, it was like that night when I went to that setup the night before and see all these people from out of town and the enthusiasm and the women. It formed a sisterhood because a lot of them never knew of each other. We were in business, never knew of each other. And when we had the workshops that Eric Phillip did with the marketing workshop and the Scotiabank did the workshop, because it wasn't just an exhibition, it had the educational part. Because every business, I mean, a lot of times we are small businesses and there are things that we are doing that think that is right and it's not right. So we need a guidance. So that's we're going to have ongoing workshops for that to get all regularized. And one of the things I challenged the Minister of Business at the opening of the expo, we need a sector there. Because small businesses are a major part of any economy, all part of the world. Small businesses sometimes drive an economy. And women in business, you find that we are natural leaders. And I have any qualms in saying that, Mr. Solomon, Roche, and Salmon. So we can take that skill of being in a home and transport into business and become very successful. So what I did is challenge Mr. Gaskin that we need a sector there within the Ministry of Business, specifically for women in business, you know, who are now starting or who are in or want to get to the next level. So we need to really look at there's so many opportunities. Like we all agree on this panel, opportunity and potential. I'm hearing that over and over. I've encountered some women farmers from Linden. Oh, and the ones that make coconut oil, a whole lot of products byproducts that come off from the farmland, and they have acres. And right now, like some of them are saying they have acres, but there's nobody to buy the stuff. There's no, because you have to find it a way that you have to find market for these women. These women, they're passionate about what they do. And coming back when you were saying cooperatives, coming together and forming that union there and making it work. We have, and I'm going to go back to what Roche was saying, we can feed not just the Caribbean because of our potential, and I don't want to use that word again. The Israeli ambassador met with us, the women from Linden was part of that group. And he was amazed in some of the prospects of what he's hearing, and he promised through his office to help us, the women there in Linden and other parts of Guyana, because there's so much that can be done. And as you know, Israel has mastered the art of agriculture. They're taking it to another level, and those are people that we can learn from. So I'm very optimistic, very, very optimistic that we're going to have a turnaround, and I'm not going to rest. Trust me, I'm going to advocate. Because you know when I'm passionate about something, how I am.
And Sonia,
I promise,
Sonia,
I can be a thorn in people's side.
You live in Guyana.
So we're going to get together again. Actually, we're getting together in less than 2 hours at my house, because what is happening is that people are finding ways of linking each other's businesses together. Like, okay, this is what I can do. I can do this sample for this for you, and I'm going to do 100, and you can continue the rest. And from that thing, people, I called one of them, Miss Noel, I'm very busy. I get so much orders after the expo. This one said, oh,
that is the culture of Guyana, Sonia. It's all coming together.
It's all coming together, and I'm excited. So they're going to be at my house tonight in a nice, relaxing atmosphere, talking about the way forward. We're getting together here tonight, about 40 of us, and we're talking about the way forward. I know we have to take the initiative, and I know we're going to get people to come on board. And with the enthusiasm and what I'm feeling from these women, we mean business. We mean business. So, Selwyn, you're going to get a start of a revolution that's going to be going on here.
I just want to ask you and Rush this particular question, right? This is to you and Rush. And Charles, I know I'm going to get you in at some point, but this is exciting. You're in Guyana. You guys live in Guyana, the three of you. You've been part of a system that didn't really, that weren't really encouraging in this way. Yet, here you are, and there's been a change in government, and as Brother Sharma said, there are still the systems, you know, the systems are still the same. But in spite of that, you didn't sit back, you nor Roche, and said, well, you know what, my hands are tied, these people are not going to listen to me, they're not going to buy into this, it's something new. You got up and you implemented. Why? And before you answer that, you, Sonia, you have connection with people in the diaspora. How is it possible, or how come you are having these relationships with people in the diaspora who want to participate or to help?
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because Mr. Braffett from the diaspora, he was the one that initiated the meeting with the Israeli ambassador here. You know, so we do have people there who really are willing to get that connection and forge bonds and put people together and that synergy to get it going, you know? So we have to ride on that, because as you said, the system, there's so many changes that still has to happen to the system, but we still cannot wait until those changes happen, because we don't know when it's going to happen. We still have to continue with our program. Like recently, a couple of days ago, I visited the prison in Burpees, and I saw so many talented people there, and I saw some of them actually in motion. We can take so many things and have so many economic activities within a prison, because you do so many things there, because you don't need angry people coming out to prison. We need people who are reformed. So if we have people in that prison there, imagine, let's take a man who feel a lesser of a man in prison there. He has children out here, he has children there are going to school, he cannot contribute to them. So imagine him, he's a welder, he's a joiner in prison. He's earning money. So even if he takes care of the transportation to his child's school or university, wherever they're going, he would feel that he has contributed something. He's coming out of there, a man who is not coming with his head down. He knows he has contributed. And then I had a friend who went to prison. She was in the US. She came out with 45,000 US out of prison. She was a hairdresser. So we have to have that. One of the things we talk about reforming stuff. One of the things we need to do, have that prison set up in such a way that men and women, whatever skill they have, to be using that skill in prison and mastering it, making money at the same time. So when they come out, they fit better in society. We don't want liabilities. We are not looking for liabilities. We're looking at for people who can contribute to society. So we talk about economic activities. There's one of the things that we can really look at is the prison system.
Let me bring Rosh. Let me bring Rosh.
We're talking about.
Let me bring Rosh in on this, Rosh. You had something to say.
Yeah, look, very quickly, I think what sums up, my answer to your question about, why do you keep going? It's the same thing I tell everybody, and I hope people listening to this will heed and understand. And it's this: it's not about your resources; it's about how resourceful you are. Period. Okay, and this is something that I keep repeating over and over again. So the way I look at it is, I really don't care what my resources are. I don't care how much trouble we get, how many challenges there are, how many obstacles there are. I understand that discomfort is part of the journey, and I've accepted that, and that just is the way it is. But we're gonna figure out how to be resourceful with what we have. So, Sonia's talking about, some amazing ideas for some amazing initiatives. And we've got the diaspora. We've got to look at it again as a resource, but how are we going to be resourceful with not just their ideas, but also their networks, right? Their capital. I mean, can we create sort of a diaspora investment fund, that we can tap into, for example? I mean, there's a gazillion things we can do. And Selwyn, I'm going to challenge you actually a little bit here. Look, you've done a phenomenal job at pulling people together. We're having these great conversations. And I know you're saying, this isn't necessarily the solution, but it's the platform, right? What I would challenge you to do is this: get some students, maybe UG students, to go through with a fine-tooth comb every single one of these sessions that you've put together, extract out all of the fantastic ideas that you're hearing from everybody, put that together in a simple document, call it Selwyn's List if you'd like, and then go ahead and share that.
Rosh, that is such a brilliant idea, but I'll tell you what. I used to love to play ping pong, and one of the great tenets of ping pong is being able to get that ball back over the net. Since you're in Guyana and you have access to these resources, and you just spoke highly about resourcefulness, can you do that?
Look, let's make it work. It can be done. The students are here. People want to do something for the country.
We will talk offline about this, Rosh. We'll talk offline about this. This is amazing. I want to go to the chat room.
I think it's a
I want to go to the chat room and read some comments. Claire said an opportunity to have this conversation is planned for June 7th in New York City Business and Investment Conference. And for details, go to Celebrate Guyana 50th in nyc.com. Clear again, the conference will foster transformation of the government and private sector businesses through the application of modern technology to effectively link Guyana to the rest of the world, modernize. This cut off. And then GT said this band is selling MLM. Esther, hi Selwyn, and everyone, really enjoying this discussion. Okay, so while I have you on camera, Rosh, that's a brilliant idea, hands down. We got to make it happen. One of the things I like to do is to do what is uncomfortable. And again, I can't emphasize enough that while we are accustomed to not doing things like this, where we come together and we have conversations about how we can make a difference and how we can make things happen, I think these conversations provide different types of opportunity as well. It is not just about discussing ideas and solutions. It's sometimes I'm hoping that through these conversations, we are able to realize how much more similar we are than we are different, and how more connected we are than we are separated. And I'm hoping that through these conversations, we're able to identify these linkages that we have and build bridges to the gaps that have really kept us apart and kept our country in the state it is in for 50 years. I want to ask this question, and Charles, I'm going to have you answer this. Putting all things in place, what can or should Guyana look like 25 years from now, Guyana 7 to 5?
Man, what a question. I mean, there's so many scenarios that could play out.
Let me get Charles to answer this. Roach.
Given the potential of Guyana, I can see that a country that's transformed, modern, productive, self-sustaining, highly educated. I mean, there's so much that can be done in the next 25 years. And I think that given the current government's commitment, and if that's maintained, I think it's achievable and attainable.
Brother Roche, you are on camera.
Yes, look, I completely agree with Charles. I mean, when you think about the cycle, how long does it take for a child to go through school and then go through their formative years to start making some impact? I mean, you're talking about an entire generation, getting the right tools, access to the right resources, the right type of education, technology at the fingertips to connect to the world. Hopefully, we put systems in place that facilitate all of this growth that we're talking about. And that's the big thing for me. Once we put that in place, I mean, we're unstoppable as a country, as a nation, as a people.
Do you believe, and this is to Brother Sean, government has a duty to make and sustain connections, communicative networks and information and skills exchange channels with the diaspora?
Let me say this. My current occupation is human resource manager for the government unit, Ministry of Public Telecommunications. At the moment, I can say to you, we are employing the brightest minds in Guyana, which are very limited in that scope of ICTs in Guyana. To the point whereas we go to ministries and we're recruiting some of the best minds in infrastructure, MIS, and different areas of the unit. And we're being stopped because it's so limited that, you have to get the best people who are scattered all over the different ministries. But to the point that you're making, Selwyn, this is one of our significant limitations, that we are looking at the world that is far advanced. And the e-government program is where you want to bring all of government services online to move easily between government in a network that is run, managed by government, so that these facilities, people in New Amsterdam, in Letem, in Quarantine, don't have to come to Georgetown to execute business that they can take care of right in their communities. It allows the government to be more accessible to people through the different mediums, whether it is to bring complaints, to even act as checks and balance to show accountability and transparency in how government conducts its business, whether those are interior location, Amerindian communities. That is what the general existence of this project is to do. It's to really bring people closer to government. However, it is an e-government program, which is government to government and government to people. We want to make e-governance a reality, where the governance of it is now the entire existence of private sector, the public, the government, working to ensure that they are now accessing the resources of each other to promote Guyana. And I think that as we look beyond these years to that number that you speak about, Selwyn, these are some of the fundamentals we'll have to work on. We have to get our public, our citizens up on new technology. We have to get them to appreciate the changing times of removal from fossil fuel to more environmental friendly use of how we represent our society, whether it's cutting down of our trees, it is the use of alternative energy. Those are some of the things that now, if we position ourselves, and I like the point that Rush made about resources. Linden and Region 10 holds 90% of all the resources that exist in Guyana. You can find them in Region 10, whether it's water, sand, laterite, lumber, gold, diamond, you name it. It's found there. But it is not about the resources. It is about how resourceful we can get. All right? I said this on your program before too, Selwyn. I went to China. I went to Chongqing and to Nanshuan, where we are building those cities. Linden is building Arbor in Nanshuan. And Canada, we've built Alberta. In Linden, we've built Melbourne in Australia from Linden. So it is not that we can see what those societies have become after they would have utilized whatever resources we have. It is how resourceful they were in projecting what they want to become. And I think that is where we too have to start to realize. We have to train our people to appreciate changing times, technology, whether it's environment, and whether it is just plain old educating our people. Those are some of the fundamentals. So before we even get to all of those things, we have to be very fundamental in our approach, or just repeat the same.
Let me get Charles in there. We are coming to a close of this segment. Any final words, Charles?
I would like to ask Sharma, one, is there a database, a national database within the current government where people outside in the diaspora can actually register that, with whatever skill set that's available, or where they can help? Because, I mean, that's one of the things that Selwyn had mentioned earlier. How do you go about doing that? Is there somewhere that they can at least list their names, their occupation, and if that doesn't exist, I think it's something that should be explored.
No, I can't say at the level of government. I will say everything relative or relevant to ICT in Guyana, ICTs in Guyana, is being handled by e-government. And I can tell you this, at the beginning of that program, it was all over. Whether it was the laptop over at Queenstown, it was the fiber optic over at Kingston, it was the resource of the LT towers in Eccles, or the data center over at Castellani House. It was a very disjointed program. That is where Guyana is. The program, in less than about 6 months, I can say to you, is still trying to understand the dynamics, pull people together, the best minds, which are very limited, and to start to shape in the context of uniquely what Guyana is, to appreciate the information age, which manages data, builds a strong network, establishes good infrastructure, whether it's our data center or our towers. And that is where we are. And as I said to you before, the systems are there. You now have new managers who understand how important such an aspect is to national development. And I think you now see them taking advantage of that.
Charlie, let me get Ms. Sonia in. This has to be your last word, and then 30 seconds, and then we'll get Roche to
Our government has done hard, but as Guyanese, we all have contributed in a small ways and some big ways. So we all have to be committed that we have to live here, whether it's us, our grandchildren, generations to come. So we all have to be committed to making this place better, all of us.
Thank you. Roche?
Look, I'm so happy to hear about all these initiatives that are happening. There's this looming telecoms reform bill that we're hearing about. When that happens, it's gonna open up the economy in a massive, massive way to the world. And truly, I want to look at this word very quickly, the entrepreneur. And I think sometimes we get stuck with the notion that the entrepreneur is the business owner. And we need to move away from the entrepreneur just being the business owner and look at what being an entrepreneur represents. Being unstoppable, being relentless, understanding that you need to be flexible, understanding that there will be challenges along the way, thinking outside of the box, and realizing that being an entrepreneur is more of a mindset than it is a profession title, if you will. And if we apply that across the board, I think Guyana is going to be in a much better place.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Sonia. Thank you, Dr. Roshkan. Thank you, Brother Sharma, Charles Mona. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Selwyn.
Thank you.
You're welcome, bro.
Everyone. Yes.
Good evening.